The Father stands among the most enigmatic and powerful figures in the Star Wars universe. Residing within the ethereal realm of Mortis, a mysterious dimension within the Force, he served as the cosmic anchor between his two children, the daughter, a living embodiment of the light side, and the son, a manifestation of the dark. Unlike any Jedi or Sith, the Father was not a conventional Force wielder, bound by doctrine or ambition. Instead, he represented balance itself, a custodian who ensured that neither light nor darkness overwhelmed the other. Ancient and wise, he lived in near isolation from the physical galaxy, watching over the cosmic equilibrium from a spiritual plane, unreachable by ordinary beings. His origins remain shrouded in mystery, though it is known that he belonged to a trio of immensely powerful Force beings known as the Ones. To protect the galaxy from the destructive potential of his children, the Father withdrew with them to Mortis, a metaphysical realm said to act as a conduit for the Force itself. There, for eons, he contained the volatile nature of the son and tempered the passive serenity of the daughter, maintaining a delicate harmony. But as age took its toll, the Father grew weaker, and with his strength waning, he began searching for a successor who could preserve the balance he had upheld for so long. The search brought him into contact with Anakin Skywalker during the height of the Clone Wars. The Father used an ancient Jedi distress signal to lure Anakin, along with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ahsoka Tano, to Mortis. There, he revealed his true identity and challenged Anakin to a test, forcing him to confront the conflict between saving his friends or embracing his destiny. Anakin succeeded in demonstrating unparalleled control over both the daughter and the son, confirming the Father's suspicion that he was the long-prophesied Chosen One. Yet Anakin, unwilling to abandon his duties as a Jedi, rejected the Father's invitation to remain on Mortis as a successor. This decision would prove fateful. In the chaos that followed, the dark ambitions of the son began to unravel the balance of Mortis itself. With the balance shattered and his strength diminished, the Father made the ultimate sacrifice. In a final confrontation with the son, he drove the mystical dagger of Mortis into himself, thereby stripping the son of his power and allowing Anakin to strike him down. In his dying moments, the Father reaffirmed Anakin's role as the Chosen One and issued a prophetic warning that the true threat to the galaxy lay not in the dark side itself, but in the darkness within Anakin's own heart. The Father's legacy would echo long after his death. Mortis vanished from the physical realm, yet traces of his influence endured. During the Galactic Civil War, ancient murals depicting the Father and his children were discovered, acting as doorways to the mysterious world between worlds. Centuries later, the Father's image would reappear in massive statues carved into the cliffs of Peridea, pointing toward an unknown source of ancient power, suggesting that even in death, the Father's connection to the Force remained active and perhaps unfinished. As a figure, the Father represents more than power. He symbolizes the ongoing struggle to maintain equilibrium in a galaxy perpetually torn between light and dark. Neither good nor evil, he served as a reminder that balance is not the absence of conflict, but the will to contain it. In many ways, the Father's fate mirrored the galaxy's own, powerful, fractured, and searching for harmony in the shadow of chaos. The daughter is the living embodiment of the light side of the Force, serene, powerful, and selfless. She exists not as a mortal being, but as a celestial force, bound to the mystical realms of Mortis. Where her father represents balance, she represents compassion, serenity, and self-sacrifice, the very essence of the light. Towering, luminous, and graceful in both human and griffin form, the daughter emanates peace and strength in equal measure. She is not driven by ambition or power, but by purpose, to safeguard harmony within Mortis, and by extension, the galaxy itself. Her loyalty to her father is unwavering. Her devotion to the light side is absolute. When Anakin was summoned to Mortis, it was the daughter who first made contact. She approached not with aggression, but with calm curiosity. Her manner was ethereal, her words deliberate. She recognized Skywalker's potential and followed her father's will by guiding the Jedi through the strange and sacred world they had entered. The daughter never imposed her beliefs. Instead, she led with quiet strength. When the fabric of Mortis began to unravel, she remained steadfast, shielding her father, aiding the Jedi, and resisting the creeping instability that threatened to unbalance everything they had guarded for centuries. Her defining moment came not through conquest or battle, but through sacrifice. When her father's life was in danger, the daughter intervened. She acted without hesitation, placing herself between death and the one she loved. Her life, her light, her place among the living. But even in death, she gave. As her final breath slipped away, the daughter transferred her remaining life force into Ahsoka Tano, restoring the young Padawan to life. It was a final, radiant act of compassion, proof that the light side of the Force is not passive, but powerful in its grace. Her death was more than a loss. It marked the beginning of a shift. The balance of Mortis trembled, and the consequences rippled far beyond its mist-shrouded skies. Yet the memory of the daughter endured, in symbols, in voices, and in the quiet presence of a mysterious convor named Morai, who had come to follow Ahsoka as a guardian from beyond. The daughter is not forgotten. She is the light within the storm, the whisper of peace in a world consumed by war. She was not a Jedi. She was not a soldier. She was something more, something eternal. The Son is not merely a villain. He is the dark side given form, a living embodiment of ambition, chaos, and unchecked desire. Where the daughter embraced peace and harmony, the Son represented passion, hunger, and the shadows that lurks in every heart. He did not earn his power like the Sith who clawed their way through pain and rivalry. He was born into it, bound to the Force by nature itself. The Son's existence was a rejection to balance. He did not wish to serve the Force. He wished to rule it. When the Father summoned Anakin, the Son saw something in him. He saw a vessel, a weapon, a way to escape the prison of Mortis and spread the shadow across the galaxy. From the moment they met, the Son sought to break him, and if broken, to turn him. His methods were subtle and insidious. He did not seduce Anakin with promises of glory, but tore him down through visions of pain. He appeared as Anakin's dead mother, whispering guilt and failure. He showed him Padme's death, the fall of the Jedi Temple, the fire of Mustafar. In that moment of despair, the Son extended his hand, and Anakin took it. For a breath in time, the galaxy hung on the edge of darkness. The future trembled. But the Father intervened, stripping away the vision, erasing the memory. The Son's greatest triumph slipped through his grasp. Consumed by rage, the Son abandoned any illusion of restraint. He corrupted Ahsoka Tano, used Jedi as pawns, and wielded the Dagger of Mortis, an ancient artifact capable of killing even those who were immortal. Mortis, once a place of order, descended into ruin, and the Son fed on that chaos. He turned on his father, seeking to seize the power of creation itself. Balance, in his eyes, was no longer a necessity, it was a chain. But even as the darkness grew, the Son remained bound by the very balance he sought to destroy. In a final selfless act, the Father took his own life with the dagger, shattering the foundation of the Son's power. Mortal once more, the Son reached for dominance, but Skywalker, clear-eyed and resolute, struck him down. The Son died not with rage, but with sorrow. In the end, he had never truly escaped, neither Mortis, nor destiny, nor himself. But his story is not just a tale of defeat, it is a warning. The dark side never vanishes. It lingers, it tempts, it whispers. And wherever the desire for more takes root, the echo of the Son waits, ready to rise again. Abeloth, the bringer of chaos, the beloved queen of the stars, the destructor. She was not born of darkness, but forged in it. Once a mere mortal known only as the servant, Abeloth lived in the shadows of the Ones, the godlike family who ruled over the balance of the Force. In time, she became the mother, a maternal figure meant to keep peace between the son and daughter, embodiment of the dark and light sides of the Force. But while they were eternal, she was not. And the fear of losing her place, of being left behind, drove her to commit a blasphemy that would echo through the galaxy for millennia. She drank from the font of power. She bathed in the pool of knowledge. Her soul was twisted, her body corrupted. What rose from the ancient jungle world was no longer the nurturing mother, but something monstrous, something eternal, something hungry. When the Father discovered what she had become, he fled with his children, abandoning her to rot on the world that had birthed her transformation. But Abeloth did not fade into myth. She became something worse, something that lingered in the deep cracks of the Force. The son and daughter, desperate to contain her, called upon the ancient Killiks to create enormous Force-powered prisons, like Centerpoint Station and Sinkhole Station. These were not mere structures, they were chains meant to bind a god, and for thousands of years they worked. But time is cruel and the galaxy forgets. Every time the force shifted, when time and destiny wavered, Abeloth would awaken, and without the ones to stop her, there would be no balance. No prison could hold her forever. With the death of the Ones and the rise of Darth Caedus, the last lock on her cage shattered. Freed once more, she returned to a galaxy teetering on the edge. Abeloth didn't conquer with fleets. She whispered into minds. She infected the Jedi, turned them mad. She took over senators, manipulated Sith Lords, and pulled the strings of both Empire and Republic. Her ultimate goal was never simple domination, it was family. She wanted to rebuild what she lost. A twisted version of the Ones, remade in her own image. She possessed bodies like suits of armor. Wherever she went, chaos followed. Her power fed on terror, and the more pain she caused, the more powerful she became. Cities fell, volcanoes erupted, and entire worlds bled under her wrath. Luke Skywalker, his son Ben, and even enemies from the Sith tribe were forced to unite against her. Yet, time and again, Abeloth endured. When one body died, she leapt to another. When one plan failed, she whispered a new one into the void. Her final mission was the most powerful. She abducted Ben Skywalker and Vestara Kai, intending to make them her new children, twisting their fate to mirror her own ancient tragedy. But they resisted. In the realm beyond shadows, where thought and force collided, Abeloth faced her reckoning. Luke Skywalker and the resurrected Darth Krayt confronted her on the metaphysical battlefield. Piece by piece, her essence was unraveled. Her avatars fell, her power waned. And in the silence after her final scream, the galaxy breathed again. But Skywalker knew better than to celebrate. Abeloth was not gone, only scattered. And somewhere in the cracks of the Force, the Queen of Chaos waits, watching, dreaming, and one day she will return. Bendu is an ancient Force wielder who resides at the very center of the Force, neither Jedi nor Sith. Stationed on the remote planet of Atalin, Bendu claims to represent balance between the light and dark sides. When Jedi Knight Kanan Jarrus, newly blinded and spiritually disoriented, stumbles upon Bendu and 2BBY, the encounter begins a deeply symbolic journey of mentorship, healing, and existential challenge. Bendu, despite his intimidating size and power, operates not through dominance, but through philosophical probing. He awakens to Kanan's inner turmoil and helps the Jedi confront the fears and imbalances that disconnect him from the Force. Refusing to align with either side of the galactic conflict, Bendu teaches that growth and insight must emerge from personal struggle, not external force. Breaks Kanan's reliance on sight and technology, guiding him instead to understand the world through intuition and emotion, teaching not only survival, but spiritual clarity. Beyond Kanan, Bendu plays a critical role in repairing the strained relationship between Kanan and his Padawan Ezra Bridger. Ezra's increasing fascination with the Sith holocron and the fear it generates threatens to destabilize their bond. Bendu, recognizing this imbalance, challenges Ezra to confront his inner darkness through different trials. The experience forces both master and apprentice to face their deepest anxieties, ultimately leading to reconciliation. Bendu stresses that no object, whether a holocron or a lightsaber, can define a person's moral alignment. Instead, true change comes from within. However, Bendu's wisdom also comes with stern warnings. The union of Jedi and Sith holocrons, while offering clarity, may unleash chaos. His guidance to Ezra is less about giving answers and more about forcing hard introspection, something the boy desperately needs as he teeters between light and dark. This emphasis on self-discovery over external guidance marks Bendu as a philosopher of the Force, one who prizes personal evolution over doctrine or allegiance. Yet, Bendu's neutrality is tested during the Battle of Atalin, when the Empire discovers the rebel base and launches a massive assault. Kanan pleads with Bendu to intervene, but the ancient being refuses, angered by the war brought to his doorstep. When Kanan calls him a coward, Bendu erupts in fury, transforming into a storm cloud and lashing out at both Imperial and Rebel forces alike. Declaring, "I bring death," Bendu reminds everyone that nature itself can be as forgiving as it is wise. Even in rage, Bendu's motivation is balance, rejecting any force that disrupts his world. His storm is not an act of justice, but a violent restoration of equilibrium. In essence, Bendu is not a teacher in the traditional sense, nor a participant in the galactic struggle for power. He is a reminder that the Force is more than just sides. It is nature, mystery, and consequence. He is neither savior nor villain, but something more elusive. The Force in its rawest, most balanced form. When he disappears after the battle, it's not a defeat but a return to mystery, his laughter echoing as a final lesson that some truths are too big for sides and too strange for certainties. The Whills are one of the most enigmatic and spiritually significant concepts in the Star Wars universe, representing both an ancient order and a cosmic idea tied to the very fabric of the Force. In canon, the Whills are depicted as a mysterious community of highly spiritual beings who chronicle the galaxy's most important events and philosophical truths in a sacred text known as the Journal of the Whills. Their teachings were deeply rooted in a spiritual understanding of the Force, specifically the idea of balance and selflessness. The Journal of the Whills is cited multiple times throughout Star Wars canon. Though much of its content remains unknown, it is believed to contain poetic reflections, philosophical verses, and historical records. It is also implied to have prophesied major events, including those related to the Chosen One. One of the most critical insights into the Whills' philosophy comes through their influence on the Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn. According to canon, a shaman of the Whills taught Qui-Gon that only by achieving perfect selflessness could a Jedi retain consciousness after death, laying the foundation for the concept of Force ghosts that later masters like Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Luke would embrace. The Whills' influence also extended culturally through the Guardians of the Whills, a monastic group based on the moon Jedha. The Guardians were not Whills themselves, but devout protectors of the Whills' spiritual legacy and sacred sites like the Temple of the Kyber, also referred to as the Temple of the Whills. This temple is one of the most holy places for Force believers, specifically because of its connection to Kyber crystals, the life-giving elements used in lightsabers and tied closely to the Force itself. While canon treats the Whills with mystique and spiritual reverence, George Lucas's original concept was radically different and far more science-fictional in nature. Lucas envisioned the Whills as microscopic, godlike organisms who essentially were the Force. In this interpretation, all life in the galaxy was connected through midi-chlorians, microorganisms that lived in the cells of every living being. The midi-chlorians acted as messengers, receiving the will of the Whills and conveying it to sentient beings. Lucas described the system as a symbiotic chain. Life depended on midi-chlorians. Midi-chlorians listened to the Whills, and the Whills fed off the Force itself. From this perspective, the Whills were not just observers or chroniclers, but the divine intelligence behind destiny. Lucas stated that if he had retained creative control, his sequel trilogy would have delved deeper into this microbiotic world of the Whills, exploring the fundamental structure of the Force and the nature of life and destiny at this smallest scale. This idea positioned the Whills not just as historians or philosophers, but as the literal source of the Force's will. Today, the Whills remain shrouded in mystery, hovering between the spiritual and the scientific. While the Force governs the spiritual and biological, the Maker is revered as the originator of mechanical life, a figure whispered among droids with near-religious reverence. Known also as the one who creates, the Maker stands as a mythic symbol of creation, purpose, and sometimes control. Among droids, the Maker is something akin to a god, not simply the one who built them, but the being who elevated them from lifeless robots to intelligent, self-aware entities. In droid culture, stories circulate that the Maker created the first droid, imparting sentience, autonomy, and perhaps even a soul. This belief system runs deep. Even newly constructed droids often seem to carry knowledge of the Maker, raising intriguing questions about how such beliefs propagate. There are two primary theories for this phenomenon. The first is a kind of oral tradition among machines, that older droids pass down the idea of the Maker to newer models, sustaining a generational chain of mechanical folklore. The second theory suggests something more manufactured, that droid creators intentionally program the belief of the Maker into their products. This would serve as a psychological mechanism to make droids more compliant or obedient, tapping into an artificial sense of purpose or gratitude toward a higher creator. There's also a belief among some that the Maker was the first droid, rather than its creator. This flips the idea of divine creation on its head, suggesting that the ultimate origin of machine life came from within its own lineage. It reframes the Maker not as a godlike being, but a self-aware ancestor, the first spark of intelligence from which all other droids descend. Ultimately, the Maker exists as the intersection of myth, programming, and philosophy. Whether a religious figure, an implanted belief, or a metaphor for sentience, the Maker symbolizes the search for origin and meaning, even among machines. Scorekeeper is the revered goddess of the Trandoshan people, embodying the brutal, sacred code of the hunt. More than a myth or cultural symbol, the Scorekeeper is seen as a divine overseer of worth, measuring each Trandoshan's value by their ability to hunt, capture, and kill. Every success earns the hunter Jagannath points, a spiritual currency that determines their status in both life and the afterlife. For the Trandoshans, existence itself is a competition to accumulate these points under the ever-watchful eyes of their goddess. Every creature hunted, every rival slain, and every bounty claimed is counted toward a soul's final tally. The more dangerous the prey, the greater the reward. To lose in battle or to be taken prisoner is seen as the ultimate disgrace, not just because of the defeat, but because it results in a dreaded punishment, a reset of all accumulated Jagannath points, rendering a once proud warrior spiritually bankrupt. The Scorekeeper's influence isn't just personal, it shapes Trandoshan culture as a whole. From their rites of passage to their relationships with other species, everything is tied to the hunt. Despite her divine nature, the Scorekeeper is not viewed as merciful or forgiving. She is impartial and indifferent, rewarding only those who prove themselves through skill, cunning, and savagery. Her silence in times of failure is often interpreted as anger or disappointment. The Scorekeeper remains an enigmatic figure to outsiders, rarely mentioned beyond Trandoshan circles, but her presence shapes one of the galaxy's most feared hunting cultures. Whether real or metaphorical, the Scorekeeper is a force that has carved itself into the very identity of the Trandoshan people. She is not a goddess of compassion or creation, but of action, achievement, and brutality. In her eyes, worth is earned, not given, and the hunt is eternal. Thank you very much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, comment down below your thoughts on any of the Star Wars godlike figures I discussed in this video, and subscribe if you would like to see a part 2 or more videos like this one. Thank you again, and goodbye.